All right. Thank you, Adam. Hello, everybody. First, we just wanted to thank everybody for taking time out of your day to come see what we have going on in your guys' backyard. So we're going to talk about this Adopt the Canal program. Does this thing work for it, or do I use the computer?
Down here.
You gotta turn it on.
I would just use the arrow.
Let me make sure it's, there we go.
Okay, so we're going to first talk about issues in the Banana River Lagoon, and then we're going to talk about the Adopt the Canal program itself, including the project goals, our 5-element approach, and the next steps. So first, with the issues in the lagoon, there was a pre-project survey that you guys were all given at the front table. And I just want to have you guys all take some time right now to fill it out, if you haven't already. Have you guys already done it? Do you guys all need a pen? Oh,
Is this it or?
yeah.
You need one, sir? I call everybody, except the lady. Not raised right.
So the point of this survey is to kind of gauge where the residents are in knowing about the issues within the lagoon. When you're done, you can just hold on to them and just place them on the table on your way out. We're not going to share your answers, we're just gauging. Everybody done?
You need to put our names on these surveys?
No, it's anonymous. And then the next thing we're going to do is play a short video for you guys.
Vitality is defined as the power-giving continuance of life present in all living things. Imagine a thriving estuary where rivers mix with the ocean to create a unique and fragile ecosystem home to over 4,000 species of plants and animals. Now, imagine it covering 40% of Florida's East Coast, touching 6 counties, creating enormous economic impact through high-tech icons like Kennedy Space Center and drawing millions of tourists, spending over $100 every day they're here. Vitality, clean water, beautiful shorelines, world-class recreational resources, and a high quality of life. All things provided to us by a healthy Indian River lagoon. All estuaries are critical to the Earth's ecosystem. When they're healthy, they're naturally resilient to storms, heavy rains, floods, and wind. But new stressors and climate change come into play. Even small, perfectly natural changes can have big impacts, and things begin to unravel. 21 million people. That's Florida's estimated population in 2018. And about 1.5 million of those people call the IRL region home. Looking to the future, the Indian River Lagoon region will grow by 1.5 times the population of Orlando. The truth is, we grew big, we grew fast, and we weren't paying attention. Now, nobody is saying we all have to move away, and there's no single bad guy out there. But here, what goes in our lagoon usually stays in our lagoon, and that's a combination of things. We need to address discharge of wastewater and septic tanks, stormwater runoff, muck buildup, and high volumes of water coming from Lake Okeechobee for a start. You've seen the headlines and probably experienced it yourself. Fish kills, dead grass, empty oyster beds, brown water, and they come from the interaction of a set of complex causes. Believe it or not, these things all have something great in common. We can do something about them and ensure that the lagoon remains vital, the backbone of our thriving coastal community. There is a plan. The IRL Council was convened in 2015 to lead a clear and effective effort to restore the lagoon under the IRL National Estuary Program. You, your neighbors, local community leaders at every level of government, every agency, every county, every city, and every person who touches the IRL are the heart of that movement. Now, we're working as one community with one voice because we share one lagoon. Funding for projects that restore water quality, protect and restore critical habitats is part of the job. But the most important work is engaging each other in new ways of thinking about our problems, their potential solutions, and ways to live lagoon friendly.
We're fortunate to have a body of water that it takes up like a third of the entire coastline of the state of Florida. It involves at least 5 different counties that are their economies depend on the lagoon. So the problems that they are seeing down in Martin County they're different than the issues that we're seeing up here in the northern end by Titusville. But as a whole, as one community, these 5 counties that are up and down the Indian River Lagoon, we all have to work together so that we can fix the lagoon.
A lot of my special memories here are just going out on the boat with my cousins and having a great time and going fishing, going to the sandbar. But it's a shame that we can't do it anymore because of the river.
It's understandable. We've all had moments, anybody that cares about this place has had moments where it sickens us to see what it's become. But at the same time, we have other examples of estuary restoration around the country. Other national estuary programs have done good jobs at providing a base map to allow their communities and stakeholders to restore estuaries. And it takes time. It takes 10, 15, 20 years. Every estuary is different. We just don't know how long it's going to take. But we have far more to lose by letting it completely slip away than we do to gain by doing so. It's really important that we stay focused on it, no matter how tough it is and how disheartening it is sometimes. The estuary wants to survive. The grass places where it can't survive, it displays a little bit of resiliency. And if we can just give it what it needs, which is clear, clean water again, the system will recover. It's just a matter of time.
Our lagoon's water quality issues are complex and will take time to repair, but we can work together to make a difference for our kids and grandkids, leading the way to a sustainable future as the world's model for coastal restoration success. Being lagoon friendly is going to mean different things in different communities at different times, but it's worth it and it's doable. These 10 actions are effective and we can start right now. Taking even one of them will make a difference. We're connected by a living body of water. We are one community, one voice, one lagoon.
Hi, while he sets that up, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Courtney Barker. I'm the city manager for the city of Satellite Beach. I also serve on the Citizens Oversight Committee for the sales tax, for the ending of the lagoon sales tax money with the county. So I want to go over some of the work that has done.
Grand Isle, Louisiana's last active barrier island.
Oops.
Population of less than 1,000. It tends to get much attention unless it's in the face of the storm. And one fishing charter captain thinks people should see the sights before they go.
Okay. One day we'll have a presentation about. So we created the sales tax back in 2015. That was basically in response to the fish kill that I think if you lived here during that time, you all remember that, with the fish dying in the canals and us having to go in and clean them up and get them out. And it was a real big wake up call for the community. And so the powers that be that talk about the environment a lot, we all got together and started talking about what type of funding source could we use for the lagoon. And the county commission decided on the sales tax. So these are some of the pollutants that are the sources of the pollution in the lagoon, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. Here is the historic loading of the lagoon for pollutants. And when I say historic, this is back before we had treatment plants that got rid of the effluent in other ways besides dumping it in the lagoon. So you see that point source number right there. We call it point source pollution because we can point to the source. And that was basically the sewer effluent going into the lagoon. And that's the way they got rid of it back then. Then we got smarter with the Clean Water Act and began making improvements to our sewer plants and figuring out better ways to get rid of that. And that's either through biosolids or deep well injection or water reuse. Then we have the undifferentiated base flow. That is things like fertilizer that percolates down into the base flow, which is the aquifer, that flows into the lagoon. There's a relationship between what's under the ground and what's in the lagoon, and it just goes back and forth like that. And so whatever we put on our lawns goes down into the aquifer and flows right into the lagoon. Then we have septic tanks. Septic tanks are a major source of pollution for the lagoon. And those, it doesn't matter how well your septic tank is built, whether it's the latest generation, it will leak nutrients into the groundwater. And then we have atmospheric. That's your cars, your airplanes, everything in the air. What that does is that the nutrients, it's nitrogen and phosphorus, mostly nitrogen, and it deposits into the water over time. And then we have stormwater runoff. That's the water that comes off the roads when it rains. We've gotten smarter over the years again and started treating that along with flood attenuation. So back when in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you just dealt with the water in terms of flooding. That's all we cared about. Like, we just don't want people to flood. Well, now we deal with water and treatment. So what we do is use various best management practices to take out the nutrients before it goes into the groundwater or before it's deposited in the lagoon. And then the last is muck. Muck is basically the legacy, we call it the legacy load of pollution. And that's largely over time that falls down to the bottom of the river and the canals. And that's that goopy stuff that you feel when you're standing in the water. Hard bottom sand feels like hard bottom sand. Muck feels like mushy, we call it black mayonnaise. Nothing lives in muck. And when that muck gets disturbed, whether it's a boat propeller, wind, anything like that, it fluxes into the water column and can create algal blooms. This is the current nitrogen loading into the lagoon. So back after we did all the sewer plant, treatment plants and all that stuff, that is a very low source of pollution to the lagoon. The undifferentiated, I can never say that right, undifferentiated base flow, that is now a greater source. That's where we're starting to identify, and that's your fertilizers, dog waste, everything that we put on our yards. Then we have the septic tanks, atmospheric deposition, stormwater runoff is now becoming one of the largest sources. And then the muck is without a doubt the largest source. So when you hear about the lagoon scientists, the Natural Resources Department, the Natural Estuary Program directors, they're out there talking about the muck dredging. That is why it's such a focus, is because of this chart here. So we began to talk about the tax, and what we did was go with the sales tax. And now this is a 0.5-cent sales tax that's discretionary, or 0.5% sales tax. That's a discretionary sales tax that's authorized by the Florida statutes. And in the statute, if we were to do a sales tax, for example, for like roads or something like that, the county would get a percentage and each city would get a percentage, and it's based on population. But we knew that to do these major muck dredging projects, these massive regional stormwater projects, we had to concentrate those monies into one fund. So all 16 cities in the county agreed to pool all the money into the Sorrel Fund, and that's managed by Brevard County Board of Commissioners and the Natural Resources Department over in the county. And it's overseen by the Citizens Oversight Committee. This is actually an old graph. This is from last year. There's probably about 15 more projects that can be added to that. But this is basically all of the projects that have been going on. It takes an enormous amount of time to do some of these projects. And just to give you an example, a simple stormwater project, Kate Helms is our stormwater manager. And when we begin a stormwater project, for example, the one on the Jackson Pond that you see, that new one that's right across the street from the Schechter Center, that pond, it took us about a year to purchase the property. It took us a year to design it, to design the pond, engineer it. And then we had to permit it. It took about 6 months to bid out the project. And then we had to construct it, and that took about 6 months to construct. So you can see how long just that tiny little project takes. The muck dredging project that you see on the Grand Canal, that in the county area that's going on right now, that will take another 2 years before they get through the finger canals. That's how much muck is in the bottom of the Grand Canal and the finger canals. So these projects take a very long time. They're very expensive, but that's how much is going on throughout the entire county. I want to talk about leaky laterals for a minute. We recognized when we had some of the sewer overflows during the hurricanes, the three back-to-back, Matthew, Irma, Dorian. When we had those hurricanes, you saw a lot of outcry with the overflows. When the sewer plant gets overloaded, they have to either backs up into people's houses, or they have to put it in these stormwater ponds, or they have to release it into the lagoon. When we had those conversations, what happens is when you have pipes, especially here on the Barrier Island, most of our infrastructure that's under the ground is sitting in water, because that's how high our water table is, especially when you live on the canal. The elevation of the city gets higher and higher and higher as you get to the ocean. So that's why the canals are the lowest areas of the city. So when your infrastructure as canal front owners is definitely sitting in water. So when it rains really hard and the water starts rising, that water backs up into the pipes, it gets into the cracks. So when people plant trees, when those tree roots start interfering with the sewer lines, when people accidentally break sewer lines, not realizing it when they're planting things, or when contractors do that. Contractors are one of the worst offenders. When people accidentally hit these sewer lines and crack them, those become entry points for water. And when the water gets into the pipes, it overflows the plant. These plants are not designed to treat millions and millions and millions of gallons of stormwater that's coming through leaky pipes. So what we did was we created a grant program with the lagoon tax. And so if you're interested in replacing your leaky lateral, if you have one, if you don't know whether it leaks, it's easy to get it TV'd by a plumber, which means they put a little TV down your pipe to see if it's in good shape. And if you want to replace that, the grant typically covers the entire cost of that replacement. So if you're interested in that, just let us know. We'll get you all the paperwork on it and help you fill out the paperwork and all that stuff. It's pretty easy. But that is one program that's out there for any property owner in Brevard County. So this is muck. We are scheduled to get our muck dredged at some point. We're in the process of engineering that project right now and getting it permitted. But we will be dredging our canals likely in 2026, we think. Unfortunately, we have nowhere to put it. So, you know, where they put that, the spoil site, we call it a spoil site or an MDA site on Pineda, you see that area? That's where they have to pump it in, dry it out, because it's 90% water. So they have to dry it out. The water that comes out of that muck gets treated on a second round of treatment to get more nutrients out of that water before it's deposited back in the lagoon. And the solids that are left over get carted away to a farm because it's basically high density fertilizer at that point. So this is what muck looks like. And this is the historic legacy load of basically dumping our sewer and everything else in the lagoon for many, many, many years. So that is what needs to come out. When that comes out, especially the Oakwood River muck dredging projects, those are the areas that you'll see the seagrasses come back and the clarity and things like that. So when we get out the muck, we basically enable seagrass to grow back, oxygen to come back in the area. Oxygen helps reduce the fish kills. When you have a lot of muck in the water column, it blocks the sunlight, which basically prevents plants from surviving. And you have to have seagrasses for anything to survive in the lagoon. And that's not just manatees, even though they eat a lot of it. So this is what lives in muck, and this is a reality. So if we don't get it out, nothing lives there. It is the best bang for our buck. It takes out a significant source of nutrients. And so we get basically the best bang for our buck when we do these projects. They are very expensive. They're very difficult to do, but it increases the health of the area that we do so much that we really are concentrating a lot of our efforts on it. And this is just some of the data that we received for turbidity, and this was done east of Turkey Creek, and this was done within a year. So you can see that turbidity levels decreased quite a bit.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am, or yes, sir.
You say that they're currently dredging the Grand Canal,
Yes.
and where are they at with that dredging?
They're in the county area right now. So the unincorporated area of Satellite Beach, which kind of starts in the Waterway Estates part and goes down to Pineda. And right now they're finishing up part of the Grand Canal. When they get that done, they'll be doing the fingers. And once they get done with that, then we take over in Satellite Beach. The problem is we have a hard time finding a place for it to go. So we're probably going to be pumping it down to a site in Palm Bay.
Okay, and any timeline on when you think they'll be coming into the fingers to dredge?
For the county area?
Just from Satellite Beach?
Oh, in Satellite Beach, probably not until 2026 at least.
2026.
Yeah, so we've got quite a bit of time.
You said pumping it to Palm Bay, not putting it in the dump trucks and taking it to Palm Bay?
You can't put it in dump trucks, it's too full of water. It's mostly water, so it has to be pumped
What are the
onto a
dump
site.
trucks that we see coming out of there? What's in those?
That's the dried out solids.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to go to a site that either can be pumped. You know, sometimes we can use sites that are a little further away from the water, from the bank of the water. And that's because they just, you know, they direct bore a line underneath the roads and stuff like that to get it there. But this one, we're pumping all the way over to Palm Bay. And the reason why we're doing that is because the site's so big that you can do it faster. So the reason why the county's taking so long is because the site's really small, so they can only dredge so much at a time because they, you know, they run out of room. And then the other reason is because we're shut down now 5 months out of the year because of manatees. So, and this is just another nitrogen source. And we like to show this, you know, when we talk about yards on septic and then yards on sewer. This is because we did a lot of testing in the groundwater for areas that were on septic and then areas that are on sewer. And these are some of the results from that. So sewer does well, does better, but you see that there's still pollution underneath the groundwater for people on sewer, and that's because of fertilizer and other things that we put on our yards. So these are some of the things that we can do to get a healthy lagoon, and that's reduce excess nitrogen and phosphorus. So that's fertilizer management, wastewater upgrades, septic to sewer conversions, septic upgrades, and stormwater treatment. And then we do a lot of restoration work too. So at Sampson's Island, we're doing a major seagrass restoration project out there with oysters and clams as well. And then also planted shorelines, trying to natural shorelines do better at removing nitrogen and phosphorus. So any plant will take up those types of nutrients. So the more plants we can put back, the better. And so that's why we concentrate on restoring shorelines, and then also seagrass beds. And then for removal, we do a lot of environmental dredging, interstitial treatment, and that's what we call where we treat the water of the muck projects before it goes back in the lagoon. And then surface water remediation. And then when we call it respond, and that's because we have a big partnership with the universities, and they do a lot of research projects to make sure that what we're doing is actually working. And we have had times when we went, you know, why are we concentrating this? Because we're just not getting our bang for the buck with this type of project, and then we move to a different type of project. So that's why we have research built in there, because if you don't check and go back and test to make sure that the stuff we're spending money on is actually working, we're just basically wasting money. And for residents, this is really what we try to impress on the public. A lot of residents, when we talk about the lagoon, will say, what can I do? And one of the biggest ways that you can help reduce the pollution to the lagoon is reduce your fertilizer use. There's a lot of lawn care companies, well, not a lot, but I know, I think Flowers does, only use slow release fertilizers if you need to fertilize. There are so many nutrients in the groundwater, so if you have a sprinkler system, by watering your lawn, you're basically fertilizing your lawn. So those are some of the ways that we try to inform residents that fertilizer at this point is really unnecessary. There are some people that are just stuck to it, and that's okay, but if you are, it's better to use the slow release fertilizer instead of the synthetic quick release. We don't have any septic in our city that are private septic tanks that we know of. We do find some residents had septic tanks and didn't hook up to their sewer line like they were supposed to a long time ago, and the new homeowners got a quick lesson that with, you know, sewer backups and had to get that taken care of. But those are, most of the residents here have access to sewer lines and are on sewer. But we do have incidences like that. But we also are trying to meet right now with our canal front owners to try to get them involved, you guys involved in helping us, because the government, when we do these stormwater projects and when we do these muck removal projects and all this stuff, it's only going to get us so far, because we can treat what's going on now, but if we keep doing it and doing it and doing it, we're never going to stop having to restore the Indian River Lagoon. And we want to be able to get to a point where we're just maintaining and we're not having to work this hard to get it back. So I'm going to invite Thea back up here so she can talk to you about the actual program. Do you guys have any questions about the tax at all? Before she comes on? Okay, I did a good job.
Thank you, Courtney. So as she mentioned, there's a lot of things that the city and the county are doing to help our Indian River Lagoon. But as a city, we wanted to put together a program to help our homeowners who live on the canals also help the canal or help the Indian River Lagoon. And that's what this Adopt a Canal program is. So I want to introduce our project team. We have Jennifer White, our city biologist. She brainstormed the idea of this project and has been extremely influential in the entire project development. And then we have Kate Holmes, our stormwater manager. And she's also been very beneficial in creating this project and will help with quality control and homeowner outreach. And then my name is Thea Baker. I'm the Director of Planning and Sustainability. Again, I'll help with quality control and other project management roles. So the goals of the project are first and foremost to educate our canal front homeowners. We want to instill stewardship into you guys. And because like we said, we can only do so much. We also need the help of all of our residents. We also want to ideally remove nitrogen and phosphorus, increase dissolved oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and enhance overall water quality in the lagoon, specifically in this pilot canal that you guys live on. And with a reduction in algae blooms and turbidity, light will infiltrate into the lagoon and promote seagrass habitat, among other benefits to wildlife. So the pilot canal. Canal D is the canal that you guys all live on, and that's our pilot canal. So this is the only canal we're offering this program to at this moment. And the reason that was chosen was because it only has a minor outfall on it. Every single canal, every single finger canal we have in the city has at least a minor outfall on it. So there's no major outfall. And then also there's no upstream stormwater projects going on that could potentially affect the water quality in the canal. So the program involves a 5-element approach. The first one is a vegetative buffer. The second one is an artificial reef. The third one is citizen science and education. The fourth one, canal aeration. And the fifth one is a pet waste pledge. And the remainder of the presentation is going to be walking through each of these elements. So vegetative buffers. The benefits of vegetative buffers involve collecting stormwater and reducing flows into the lagoon, filter nutrients before they enter the canal, and promote infiltration. And then lastly, also creating wildlife habitat for all of the pollinators that rely on the plants, the local flowers. The city is going to provide 3 things. First, we're going to provide a plant list. Second, we can act as a consultant where we can recommend a location and a design for the vegetative buffer. And it's not something you'll have to take, but it's just an added thing that we would like to help you guys out with if you guys need. And thirdly, we're going to provide up to a $500 match to install the vegetative buffer. So this could be residents purchasing the plants or paying a lawn care company or a landscaping company to do it. And it's a match. So if your vegetative buffer costs $1,000, you guys put in 500, we put in 500. If it costs 600, you guys put in 300, we put in 300. So the minimum parameters to qualify for this element, we're asking for a minimum of 5 foot in depth from the seawall or canal edge into your yard, a minimum of 20 feet in length, native flora only for the plantings, and a minimum of 3 plant species from the plant list provided. And the buffer needs to contain an inorganic substrate, for example, crushed shell, coquina, or rock, and have edging to prevent washout into the canal. You can also choose a vegetative ground cover, such as purslane or perennial peanut, something like that. But we basically don't want organic substrate like mulch to be washing to the canal. And then lastly, we're gonna ask that anyone who participates provide six month and 1 year post implementation photos. Because again, this is a pilot canal. The goal is to implement this in all of our canals if it's successful. And we wanna be able to show other homeowners how beautiful it can look after 6 months, after 1 year. Now, we know not everybody has shoreline to spare, and we don't want to pigeonhole this program and not allow anyone to participate if they don't have the shoreline to spare. So if for whatever reason, maybe you already have a vegetative buffer, or maybe you are using that space in your yard for recreational purposes that you don't want to give up, we will evaluate other options on a case-by-case basis. With the minimum requirement being turf removal in another part of your yard, and then also in conjunction with native plantings. So why do you have to use the list? Basically, we've done your homework for you. It's a very extensive list, and the plant list is already provided here if you want to see, and Jenny's put a lot of work into this. And working with Orca as well, who's going to present a little bit at the end of our presentation. But they've hand-selected plants that act as host plants for local pollinators. They act as erosion control. They're a food source for wildlife. They're really good at nutrient uptake. They'll reduce the organic load into the canal, and they're salt tolerant. And again, we ask that you choose at least 3 of these. You can choose other ones, but they need to be native plants. So the next element of this Adopt a Canal program is an underdock reef, an artificial reef. So we're partnering with Space Coast Reefs, who's also here as well, who will show you guys what they have to offer. But it's basically an artificial reef that'll go under your dock, and there's different size options, and the city is paying for this. So they will talk about it more, but if you choose to participate in this one, you basically just have to say yes, and it will be provided to you. And this reef will act as a habitat structure for filter feeders, invertebrates, and fish, and can filter upwards of 30,000 gallons of water a day after a year of being implemented. The next element is citizen science or education. And what we're asking homeowners to do is to participate in water quality testing monthly. So we will provide the equipment for you guys to do this, but we want to instill this education into you guys and have you guys kind of understand the water quality in your own finger canal. So we will basically be having you guys test for clarity, air temperature, salinity, wind speed and direction, and pH. So the first one is to test for water clarity or turbidity. And we will be giving out a second disc, which will be lowered into the water from the dock until the white parts are no longer visible. The second part is for salinity. We'll be giving you guys a refractometer, and you'll place a drop of canal water onto the slide and then read the percent to determine the parts per thousand. And then we'll give you this anemometer to measure wind speed and air temperature, and you'll hold it up in the direction of the wind, and it'll basically tell you the max wind speed and the average wind speed. So we really would love for a few people on the canal to participate in this. We can easily go out and do this ourselves, and we will, but we really, especially if you have kids, if you have grandkids, we think it would be a great opportunity to kind of show how to have this real life opportunity to basically do science in your backyard. So the last portion of the Adopt a Canal program is canal aeration. And the benefits of canal aeration are increased oxygen, and it breaks down organic materials in the canals. It discourages harmful algal blooms, and it improves aquatic wildlife habitat. So we're partnering with a third-party company, Clearwaters Inc. We did go out to bid and we did select them as the best option to provide this. And they're gonna provide this Molar clear nanobubble generator. It's gonna go on the east, the proposed site is on the east end of the canal along the city's easement. And we do have one of Clearwater's partners here to talk about that a little bit more. But this is basically what it's gonna look like. 2 tubes would run over the seawall. One's gonna be the intake and one's gonna be the outtake. They'll only go about 10 feet into the water. And they'll be taking up water, injecting them with nanobubbles and delivering back to the canal. And again, he's going to talk about this a little bit more, but nanobubbles are basically 2,500 times smaller than a grain of salt. So they're very, very tiny. And you can kind of see this isn't to scale, but larger bubbles are going to rise up to the surface and burst. The nanobubbles are expected to stay within the water column so that they're pushed all the way to the end of the canal. And the reason this was chosen over another aeration company was it's expected to not stir up the muck as much as a different aeration option would. Okay, I lied. The last element of this program is the pet waste pledge. And so this is what the actual pet waste pledge looks like and what we would ask. Ideally, we would love for everybody who has a pet on the canal to sign this pledge. But we will provide pickup bags, biodegradable pickup bags. And we just ask that you pledge to pick up your dog's poop. And pet waste can be the source of up to 95% of fecal coliform bacteria in stormwater runoff. It's also a concentrated source of nitrogen and phosphorus. So what's the problem with poop? I know years ago, I didn't realize it was such a problem. And now knowing it, I feel very silly. But so the average dog excretes 300, almost a pound of waste per day. And the piles can take a year or more to fully break down. 1 gram of dog waste contains 23 million fecal coliform bacteria, which is nearly twice as much as human. And just 2 days of dog waste from 100 dogs could contribute enough pollution to close a beach and all watershed areas within 20 miles. And the statistics. You might think everybody does pick up after the dog, but it's estimated that 40% of the population doesn't actually pick up after the dog. And here's some statistics that Kate researched and put together. And on the left side, you can see the parameter, which is amount of unscooped waste, amount of nitrogen in each, in the unscooped waste, and the amount of phosphorus. And then the middle column is satellite beach, within satellite beach, and then the other column is the canals within satellite beach. So what we're hoping for is at least 50% participation from all of the canal front residents in at least one of the elements. And again, ideally, everybody would sign up for the pet waste pledge, and then we could also do at least one of the other elements. And you are welcome to participate in every single one. And that would be great. And so we're really happy that you guys are all here, but we need more than just you guys. We need your neighbors to sign up as well. So we will ask that you will talk to the neighbors that you are close with and get them involved as well. Because we're really excited about this program and we want to see its success. We want to be able to repeat this in other canals, and we won't be able to repeat it unless we can prove that homeowners are willing and do care about the canal. So if you do participate in 2 of the elements, and at least one of them has to be either the vegetative buffer or the artificial habitat, the city will provide this, this yard sign. And this isn't necessarily going to be the design, this is just a mock-up, but it'll be basically a proud member sign, City of Satellite Beach Adopt a Canal program. And there will also be a sign for your dog as well. So the next steps are to sign up in person. So you're welcome to sign up here right before you leave, but also there will be a chance to sign up online if you want to go home and think about it, talk to your family members, and also talk to your neighbors to have them sign up online. But this is where you'll sign up at this satellitebeach.org/adopt-a-canal. And again, please talk to your neighbors. We really want to see this be a successful program, and we need participation. So do you guys have any questions for me right now? We are going to have Orca present a little bit more about their vegetative buffers design, and we're going to also have Space Coast Reefs present on their artificial reefs, and we will have the Clear Waters partner talk about the aeration a little bit more. But do you have any questions about the program as a whole?
Basically, initially you had two meetings scheduled, one for a Tuesday and one for Thursday. I know the Thursday was canceled because of the hurricane. Did you have the Tuesday meeting, or was that canceled as well?
It was canceled. We wanted to give homeowners the opportunity to prepare for the storm if they needed to. So we wanted to have as much participation, have as many people show up, and we didn't think we would have people show up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Some of my neighbors here, so I was curious.
Yeah.
They attended the first meeting if you had it, if not,
No, this is the only meeting we have.
okay. All right.
But we're recording it.
Yeah, we are recording it. We're recording it, and it will be online at that link. And so you can have them watch that.
You may want to have another meeting
Okay, yeah.
later in the month.
Later in the month? Yeah, we're definitely open to that. What do you guys think of the time in the day? Do you think this is a good time for the neighbors that you know of?
Yeah, time-wise, I think this is good, but I agree with this gentleman here. It might give us the chance now that we've seen the, almost seen all of the presentation that you have, that we could speak with our other neighbors that we don't see here currently, and prod them to kind of come to the next meeting. And once they see this, I think they'll be more inclined to participate with at least one or two of the proposals here. I'd rather them get it from you than from us. We can prod along and try to get them here, but you have the answer.
Yeah, and I would say maybe even, since this has been recorded, for some of the active, really young, busy families that are on the canals, maybe getting it communicated to them that there is a link to the meeting, so if they don't have a chance to come physically, they have a way that they can send that link. I don't know if
Or
it's
maybe
like
just even
beforehand
drop a little flyer or something in the mailbox of each one of the residents along the.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'd love that.
Drop a flyer on tour, can't do it together.
Right.
Right.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Any other questions about the program as a whole before we have them come up and talk a little more?
How long is it? What's the maybe, what's the length of time that you're measuring?
No, we forgot to mention that. It's going to be a year-long pilot program.
And will we get any updates throughout the process, like every 3 months, every 6 months?
Yes, there will be regular updates, especially if you're one of them who signs up for them. As long as we have your email address, everybody who signed up will be getting regular updates.
We'll need to get your data.
Yeah, and if you sign up for the water quality testing, we'll be coming out and training you guys on how to use each piece of equipment, but we'll also need, we'll have a way for you guys to submit your data online.
While you're on the water, how often is that?
It'll be monthly testing.
And do we have the email address here to go online to sign up for the ones that we wish to participate in?
Yeah, it's not showing up very well here, but it is sustainability@satellitebeach.org.
Okay, I've got that on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would like to have Dominic, one of our council members, come up and speak a little bit.
Usually I don't need a microphone, but I know they're recording this, so I'm going to stand over here because I talk pretty loud. First of all, I want to thank you very much for being here tonight. I moved here in 1984. I've lived in Florida since 1976. And I've been on council for, I started in 2002. And I can't tell you how many people have talked to me about the water and the canals in Satellite Beach over the years that I've been involved in our city. And I think you guys are being given a great opportunity to be a model for how we can do this the right way. And I would hope that, your suggestion of having another meeting, I think is right on, because I'm hoping that you're gonna be able to go back to your neighbors and talk to them about, you know, what this program entails, and maybe interest them to come to the next meeting when we have the next meeting. Because this is not gonna work unless we get the participation on the canal that we need. And your canal is a choice one because everything that's going on stormwater wise is far enough away from it where it won't affect the results. So I'm hoping that this is something that's going to work well and could be the model for how we progress through the city. For 37 years, I had a swimming pool business, and I've been in and out of yards in Brevard County, and I've watched the lawn crews come in and cut the grass, and it goes right into the water. So these buffers that they're putting in and talking about are great to prevent that stuff from going into the water. And that's probably a great percentage of the stuff that's going into the water that's causing the problems with muck over the years. So I want to thank you. Please talk to your neighbors and see if we can get them involved, because that's the only way this is going to work, right? Thank you very much for coming.
Hello everyone, I'm Veronica, I'm the research assistant and project coordinator with Orca. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Orca. So Orca was founded in 2005 by Dr. E. Willard, a deep sea ocean explorer and bioluminescence expert. And at Orca, scientists and engineers work together to tackle conservation problems. And we do this through the unique approach of our innovative technologies in science-based conservation. And we carry this throughout these 4 wings. We have our innovative technologies, which encompasses our toroids. I don't know if one of you have heard about this, but these are lifetime monitoring stations throughout the Indian River Lagoon that tells us about health indicators about our waters. Then we also do applied science research. This includes our ecotoxicity projects and our One Health fish monitoring project. And then we educate the community, and we educate all ages and backgrounds, from kids from elementary all the way to high school, and as well as adults from the community. And then our citizen scientists are members from the community that may not have any science background, that we train in laboratory and field procedures. So they come to us to work on and actually perform real life science and data that can lead to changes. So it's really cool to have members of our community be a part of the solution. And I'm not going to spend too much time about this because we all know how important ecological and for the economy the Indian River Lagoon is, and why it's so important to protect it. And again, as we heard earlier today, there's a lot of things affecting the lagoon, a lot of problems that we're facing. And at Orca, we try to tackle all these problems, but there's so much that we can do. We're a small organization, so we really rely on the help of our citizen science and those members from the community that we train for those laboratory and field procedures. So we currently have 4 projects that rely on citizen scientists. We have our pollution mapping, a day in the life, a One Health fish monitoring, and then a land to sea, which is why you guys are here. So we're going to go into that further. So our land to sea projects, it's divided into 2 initiatives. We have our living shoreline initiative and our buffer shoreline initiative that is part of the Adopt a Canal program. So we're going to talk about that more. So as you've heard, a major problem facing our lagoon is water runoff, as it contributes to grass clippings, pet waste, fertilizers, sediments, and other pollutants, which leads to the accumulation of muck, harmful algal blooms. There's a really big problem that we're facing, but there is a solution. Don't lose hope. There is a solution, and you guys could be a part of it. So by just simply adding a buffer zone between your green lawn and your seawall, mainly out of Florida native plants or Florida friendly plants, you're able to reduce the flow of the water. So not only does it provide a physical barrier, preventing grass clippings, sediments, and things like that, it also provides a chemical barrier because they're plants, they need nutrients. So that nutrient that's in that runoff, those plants are going to be uptaking it before it leads to the water. So it has a huge impact, and it's such a low hanging fruit because it's so easy to have in your backyard. And we currently have about 4 buffered shoreline sites, but I really want to walk you through the journey of one of our sites in Favor Cove and Fort Pierce. So this is what the backyard looked like at this homeowner's property. It looks like your typical green grass up to your seawall next to the water. So at this point, we would deploy collection devices along the seawall right here. And wait for 2 separate rain events and collect that water runoff. And we test for phosphate, ammonium nitrate, and other pollutants before we install the buffer shoreline. So this is what we call our pre-monitoring. Once we have conducted our pre-monitoring, we have the data for that, we go ahead and do the installation with the help of our citizen scientists. So these are members from the community coming out and helping us install the buffer shoreline. Once we have installed the buffer shoreline, we do our post-monitoring. So this is the collection after the installation. And we do this 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months post-installation. So this picture right here is 1 month post-installation. So you can see how the plants are in the ground and so forth. So once again, we would go out with either staff or citizen scientists will go out, deploy those collection devices along the seawall, wait for those 2 separate rain events, collect that water, bring it back to the lab, and conduct the same analyses that we've done before. So this is 1 month, and this is what it looked like just 3 months after installation. So you guys can see how big these plants have gotten. Some of them are flowering, but you can see butterflies around. So it's a beautiful sight. We turned that green lawn into something beautiful. And again, we would deploy our collection devices along the seawall, collect that runoff, and test for those nutrients and other pollutants. And once we have our pre and post monitoring data, we can go ahead and determine if there has been a change or a reduction in nutrient concentration. So this is the nutrient concentration for that site. As you can see, blue is the pre, orange is the post. For each nutrient, there has been a reduction in the concentration. And although each site is unique, we have seen throughout all of our sites a pattern of a reduction in phosphate. So look at this huge difference between pre versus post. For this site, this is a site in Shepherd's Park in Warren County, and we've gathered at least 1 year's worth of data. So it's impactful and it works. So with the things that we're finding, we're really excited to be working with the city of Satellite Beach on a buffer project in DeSoto Park, where we are going to be transforming a small portion of the park into a demonstration site. So we're going to demonstrate different types of buffer shorelines because, again, everybody has different tastes, and we want to make sure that you're happy with your backyard and how it looks. So we're going to provide different plants, different ground coverings, so you guys will be able to see what different types of buffer shorelines could look like. Because you can have a beautiful backyard and enjoy it, but also be impactful to the environment. It's a win-win. Why wouldn't you not do that, right? So in addition to that small portion that we're transforming, we're doing a big portion of the park, and we're going to install a buffered zone as well. We rely on a lot of our citizen scientists. So if you guys want to get involved in this in the future, just feel free to reach out to me or Jennifer, and we'll give you more information. So in addition to this project, we're also partnering with the City of Satellite Beach for the Adopt a Canal program, which is why you're all here. So we are doing the pre and post monitoring for those buffered installations. And it's a very unique situation or a unique opportunity for homeowners because you'll be able to see your individual impact to the reduction in nutrients. So if you guys are interested in taking part of this monitoring process with Orca, let me know or Jennifer, and we'll make sure to give you more information regarding the pre and post monitoring. So that's all for me. Does anybody have any questions or?
That was awesome. All right, I don't have any slides for you today. My name is Brian Norton. I'm with Space Coast Reefs, and I'm bringing this. This is a single unit reef. Do I need to speak into this for the recording? Okay. I'll do my best here. I like to stand in front of people. Let me just go grab that so I can and bring it over. It's pretty lightweight and resilient, as you can see. So first off, again, I would like to echo thank you for being here, because I'm a proponent of trying to make our Indian River Lagoon beautiful again. I have a full-time job, do this on the side with a buddy of mine that also has a full-time job. So we're trying to make a difference here and make an impact. What we're bringing to the project is an underdock floating habitat. And this is going to do several things for the canal. It's going to collect benthic filter feeders over time. That takes a little while to establish, as you heard earlier. And it also helps offset the environmental impacts of having a seawall by creating that natural mangrove type of habitat for adolescent fish and crabs to have a place to lay their eggs and grow and escape from predators, because as you know, they're pretty quick. And on some other canals that we've had these installed, we're seeing various species of fish that we hadn't seen in years prior, just because now they actually have a place to escape the larger predator fish. And crabs and shrimp, when we're pulling them up out of the water to do some inspections and take some pictures and stuff, it's amazing, and it's exciting to see it working. So I think the question for a lot of the other homeowners on the canal for you guys might be, why not? Why wouldn't you want to participate in programs like these? So the other unit here that I have, so I'm a dad too, and a single dad, so I gotta keep my daughter busy, and she's curious and she likes science, and she asked, what is that going to be doing? So that single unit is going to weigh well over 100 pounds. As we pull them out of the water, it's a struggle with even two people to get it up out of the water. So we decided to make something that would be more educational. This is not directly part of the program that they're offering, but it's a way to educate kids and grandkids, because we attach this on a cleat or something next to the dock, and it's going to hang in the water at the same level of the water column and grow very similarly to the actual reef. And you can pull it up out of the water for educational purposes and to see what's really happening down there. We're all curious. I would want to know what's happening down there as well.
Okay, and excuse me, those are passive units, right? I mean, they just go in the water, self-contained.
Yes, sir.
They don't need any outside electricity or
This is it.
water flow or anything like that.
We're going to come out. I'm going to get in the water because my partner doesn't like to get in the water. I'm going to secure this underneath your dock on some pilings. We'll come out to the property and assess it prior to, but we have floats that help prevent any chafing to the pylon, so it's very non-invasive. They flow really well in storms because it's like a hydrofoil under there, kind of keeps it moving with the water, so it's very low impact there. And over time, this polypropylene material is going to collect those filter feeders that are going to almost make it stronger, but it'll be quite heavy as well. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have to remove it and clean it or anything?
no.
Occasionally, or what's the life?
So longer than any dock we put them underneath. This polypropylene will last a long time. It's not going to fall apart. It's food grade polypropylene, and it's recyclable. Obviously not once we have a bunch of marine life on it, but as of now. And I think depending on, we're still fairly new, but everything we've had out there is doing tremendous. In an anoxic situation where we have very, very low oxygen levels, we might see some mortality, and we're still learning more about that, but I don't expect homeowners to have to do much maintenance to these at all.
And if you've got space on your dock for two of those, is that possible, or is only one per?
Oh, no, it's absolutely possible. So this is a single unit. This is half the size that's allotted through the program. So a double unit is what the program has agreed to for the citizens, or two single units. So depending on per resident or per dock. So depending on the situation of the dock and what best will accommodate that.
And what kind of life, marine life attaches itself to that artificial reef that helps clean? Is it oysters or is it shellfish in general?
It's
or-
going to be all kinds of benthic filter feeders, little mollusks and barnacles, and
Right.
it's going to vary depending on where you're putting that.
Okay.
So-
Because I'm very interested in those.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'd love to come out and talk to you more about it. And I have some other information and websites too.
You provide a starter nursery for clams or oysters?
I don't, the zoo does that. They do that oyster farming. And so that's a heavily permitted and regulated. Yes, so that we don't do any of that.
Okay.
And they're different. There's pros and cons. Oysters do a lot of filtering, but they grow there and then they're gonna move those later on. Yeah. And so this would remain with you under the dock for the life of the reef. Yeah. Any other questions? We're excited to be here. Thank you guys, and we're happy to come and share again as Space Coast Reefs would be.
Yes.
How fast do you show up?
How fast do you need me there?
Tomorrow.
We are incredibly responsive and we would accommodate you the best that we possibly can. Usually within a week or two, we can take care of you. Anything else? Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thanks for trying to make a difference.
Riverwood can be used on a seawall.
So I have to put it on your dock so that it's under the dock. What you do with that is up to you, but we're supposed to put it in the same area, cannot impede the floating traffic, it can't touch the bottom.
Okay, it floats, all right? It does not sit
This
in the boat.
will not float, this does float, yes, sir.
So, I mean, the preferred positioning of that underwater dock would be like halfway between the surface of the water and the muck on the bottom, is that correct? Or
For the floating or for this one?
for the big one?
Yes, sir. This is gonna float about here, so about 24 inches down into the water.
Oh, okay. All right.
You'll see the top, you'll see the top 3
Yeah,
inches.
well, you will see it be under the dock.
Correct, yes.
Got it. Okay, so it doesn't sit down on the bottom and get,
No, sir, it won't.
yeah. Pretty cool, I like that.
We're excited about it.
That's the main reason I came tonight, so that's something, yeah.
All right, well, good deal. Great questions and
Okay.
no worries. Glad to see the excitement. So this is excellent. I'm Jim Burney. I'm here representing Clearwater's. The folks are going to be doing the aeration part of the canal work. I did not bring slides as well, but there are brochures, excuse me, some informational material right up on the table there. And then this will express what we're actually going to be installing. So Clearwater's will be installing a Moliere Clear Unit 50 nano bubbler aeration unit. It's basically a 30-inch by 30-inch unit, aeration unit that sits on the edge of the canal. And then as you saw the pictures, there'll be an intake pipe that brings the water into the unit, and then a discharge pipe taking out the aerated water back into it. They're very quiet units. I think we measured them at around 40 decibels, which is about the same as a refrigerator. So it's a very quiet unit. Right now, the proposed location is going to be on the very end of the canal, the very terminus of the canal. I think it's kind of the intersection between the city-owned property and I believe maybe your property as well. But anyway, it's right there at the end of the proposed unit site. There will be online telemetry on the unit where we can remotely excuse me, monitor the water pressure, the intake water pressure, the outtake water pressure, as well as the air pressure and dissolved oxygen. So those will be monitored daily remotely. We'll also be monitoring water clarity using CQ and then the Moliere, the manufacturer, the actual unit, wants to measure redox potential of the water, which is basically the oxidation potential of the water column equates to the amount of oxygen in the water. It's just more of a stable way to measure it because your DO will fluctuate daily as well as you know, between day and night temperatures, levels, as well as different levels of the water column. So the redox potential is a little bit more steady way to measure the oxygen levels. As far as the nanobubble technology, the reason that we're excited about this is they're, like I said, they're very small bubbles, much smaller than the typical aeration devices. And the other difference is the aeration, a typical aeration has larger bubbles. They oxygenate the column, but they also physically can move the water column and then cause some sort of circulation. The nanobubble technology is different. It actually hypersaturates the water with small air bubbles that are stable. Therefore, you can carry the air from top to bottom of the full length of the canal, whereas opposed to the larger bubbles will not be able to do that. And then lastly, we're focusing on the nanobubble technology. Will focus on the layer between the water and sediment interface, with one of the goals being to kind of consolidate some of the flocculent material, but also depending on the organic levels of the muck or the sludge, whatever you would like to refer to as the bottoms, is promote natural bacterial metabolism that'll consume and oxidize the organic components of the muck. So as I mentioned, those are kind of the goals would be to increase the DO of the canal or the redox potential, thereby enhancing the water clarity, promoting water clarity. And then thirdly is to help consolidate a flocculent layer as well as potentially consume the organic layers or the organic material that's inside the sludge. Hopefully it's closer to that 25% than 10%. You'll get a little bit more action, but it won't affect the sediments if it's silica based. If it's clays or fine sand, it won't affect that at all. So anyway, we're very, very excited to be part of this. I'm a third generation Central Florida person myself, so very, very interested in being part of this. We appreciate y'all's participation. Can't do it without y'all. Thank you. Yes, sir.
What are your electrical demands on the?
It's a 110. That's a 110 unit. So it would draw basically a refrigerator, really, or less.
Have you thought about solar?
Yes, the problem is that they haven't got the steady. I'm not an electrician, but there's an issue with the steady supply from the solar versus ground power. So at this stage of the game, the manufacturer is recommending ground power, but they are working on a solar component to this. But at the moment, they're recommending ground power.
Because we don't need bubbles 24 hours.
Right. Well, this does do bubbles 24 hours, right? But,
With 110, yes.
yes. Yep. And that's a good question. And then they are working on that. And that is the ultimate goal.
The city will be providing the power.
Yes. For this
So you will?
So we'll be providing the power, so we'll be installing the power pole for this project.
yes. So the city will be providing for this pilot project. Yes. Hopefully in the future, I think the goal is to as this pilot project really takes hold is to find host families because there's not public land on each one of these canals. So that is one of the reasons is to get buy-in. So hopefully it will be a host family.
Yeah.
So, anyway, are there any other questions? Did I miss? All right. Well, thank y'all. And pleasure being here. And I'm local. I live in Rockledge, so I can be here as needed as well.
Thank you.
One thing about aeration though that I will probably impress on the community when we get further down, we did do a partnership with FIT on another canal, basically the one over from you. And that was 4 years ago, maybe. But that was a demonstration project, but one of the things we want to make sure that people understand is this does not, aeration doesn't do anything to your docks, your anything. It doesn't even really move the water. All it does is put bubbles and oxygen into the water column. And so we ended up having to move this project to another city 4 years ago because the boat owner was convinced that the aeration was ruining her boat air conditioning unit. And it got so bad that that researchers just decided to move it. But we've gotten to the point now where we realized that if we do not aerate these canals, we're always gonna have to aerate them. And, you know, to be able to provide that clarity and environment for, you know, the habitats to do well and things like that, we have to do this. And so aeration is not, at this point, gonna be a choice for people. It's, the city is just going to be doing it, so.
Yeah, the point to that is, I think it's a different nomenclature because the scientific community uses the word oxidation, and most people think oxidation equals rust and
Right.
corrosion. In this particular case, it's not. It's strictly referring to the increased oxygen levels as
Right.
opposed to any kind of corrosive.
And all that does is,
Make fish happy.
yeah, it makes fish happy, it prevents fish kills, and it, you know, or at least reduces them, and it provides a better clarity for the canal. So we want to make sure that residents know that this will not affect your boats, it will not affect anything. So when you see those little bubbles, it's, you know, be happy about them because it's a good thing for the canal. And that's it.
Thank you, guys.
So thank you guys, thanks for sticking through it to the
Yeah.
very
It was very entertaining.
Good. We really appreciate it. As you keep saying.
Yeah, so staff will be around.